Well, I think the Russians are enraged at us because they do not understand or comprehend the hatred that seems to animate and motivate us. The Russians are not our blood enemies. And frankly, after the Soviet Union collapsed, Russia presented no appreciable threat to us whatsoever. And the Russians, their nuclear weapons and capability is substantial, but they were the ones that initiated and pushed arms control. We decided we didn't like what they were doing or what they were interpreting. They decided that they didn't like what we were doing in Romania, for instance, with the theater ballistic missile early warning systems and anti-ballistic missile defense systems. But we would not allow them to inspect. We treated them as though they had no right to say anything about what we did in Eastern Europe. And of course, all of this against the backdrop of having promised everybody from Gorbachev to Putin over the last 30 years that we were not going to push our forces east. We were not going to push our forces up to the borders of Russia. From their vantage point, they feel betrayed. They know that we built the army in Ukraine, that we cultivated the hatred against them in Ukraine and pushed the Ukrainians to attack them. And quite frankly, the Ukrainians were in the position of rapidly attacking Russia before the Russians attacked them. They were surprised that the Russians came in when they did, and the Russians subsequently decided, thank God they did, because this army was extremely well trained and well equipped and dangerous and lethal, much more than they thought, and they realized that this was being directed at them. I mean, we could talk for hours on this. The problem now is we're way beyond that. We're now talking about a situation where the Russians have said, our country is at risk. This is an existential fight for us. We will not tolerate a regime in Kiev. We will not tolerate Ukrainian forces in Ukraine that are hostile to us and will threaten us. And we don't seem to get it. We need to stay out of this, because if we get involved in this any more beyond what we've already done, it could lead to a confrontation with Russia. I don't think people in Washington understand what that means.